Tonight, a light plane loses power, crash landing on top of a car near Bankstown Airport. The pilot counts his blessings.
Breaking news, a second body discovered in flood-ravaged Eugowra as farmers reveal record losses in the Central West.
A thief breaks into a restaurant in Seven Hills the moment he realises he's being filmed.
2 firefighters killed when a passenger jet careers into their truck on a runway.
History comes alive. Researchers reconstruct the wreckage of HMAS Sydney on the anniversary of her sinking.
And Steve Smith stars at the SCG against England, but not happy as he falls just short of a century.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Angela Cox and Michael Usher.
Good evening. It's been a day of drama in Sydney's southwest. A light plane has crash landed, ploughing into a car near Bankstown. The whole event caught on camera.
The emotional pilot got out asking for a hug, telling witnesses he'd been warned by his mother about the dangers of flying.
A car park security camera captures a plane crash landing. The Piper Warrior smashed into an SUV outside Club Condell Park this morning.
I've been in a bit of an accident here. My engine's cut out on final.
It was en route to nearby Bankstown Airport.
Come down on the grass, skid it, took the wing out on that pole and kept coming straight through.
Apollo 24, we looked at the aircraft here on the ground. He's tried to make a forced landing at the dog track.
The 28-year-old pilot walked into the arms of Sharon, the club's receptionist.
He saw me and he just fell to his knees, and then he got up. And first thing he said was, "Can I give you a hug?"
Of course, the grandmother obliged.
He was expecting a baby, and that was, first thing he thought of. And I said, "I'm just so glad you're okay."
Remarkably okay, but the plane worse for wear. Part of the wing ripped off after skidding past a light pole before coming to a spectacular stop. The lone pilot had been enjoying near-perfect flying conditions for about half an hour before the emergency unfolded. After circling Bankstown for 8 touch-and-go landings, the plane stopped, then took off again, climbing to 360 metres at 190 kilometres per hour before the pilot reported trouble.
Got an engine failure.
The aircraft rapidly descended, the whole flight over in 4 minutes.
He was just trembling like you wouldn't believe. He said, "Oh, my mum told me not to," and of course I assumed not to fly.
The owner of the car was inside the club, line dancing at the time.
When she walked outside, she was as shocked as anyone, and is just relieved the pilot wasn't hurt. But now she'll have to explain this to her insurance company.
Sharon says when the pilot is ready, he's welcome back to the club.
I'll buy him one if he does, that's for sure.
An eventful day many won't forget. Ashley Hansen, 7 News.
Some breaking news now out of the state's flood zone. Another body found in Eugowra. Our reporter Annie Puller is in Forbes. Annie, good evening to you. The man was last seen on Monday morning.
That's right, Michael. A tragic outcome in a search spanning 6 days. Police discovering the body of a male believed to be 85-year-old Les Vujic around 3 o'clock this afternoon near Eugowra's town centre. He was last seen around 9 o'clock Monday morning when those floodwaters did hit. His family have been painstakingly waiting for answers since then, telling me only yesterday how desperate they were to receive closure. This is the second death in our state's flood crisis as the threat of more water moves to more communities further west tonight.
It's all happening now.
They knew their turn would come.
Here we are, 10 to 4 in the morning. There's only a few of us here.
But nothing could have prepared residents in Bajerabong for this.
Wow.
In darkness, disaster closed in. By daylight, assistance was called in from the air. On the ground, it was a race against time.
This wall was built trying to stop the bloody water.
Sandbagging, scrambling to save what they could.
3 boats on the go today.
In nearby Gemelong, farmers in the firing line once again resorting to boats. From property to property, a rescue mission to save livestock.
Yeah, that was a paddock. It's now a duck farm and homing some frogs at the moment.
Kilometres outside the flood-ravaged town of Forbes, sheep farmer Tom Green is still surrounded by an inland sea. His paddocks turned to swamps.
There's only 16 hectares out of 900 that hasn't had floodwater.
While Tom has managed to save all of his livestock, it's a different story for his crop. Floodwaters have wiped out almost half of his wheat, and the damage bill is going to hurt.
It'll tally into the hundreds of millions.
Hit twice in 2 weeks, his plea to raise walls of Wyangala Dam growing more desperate by the day.
It's just been so disappointing. Frankly, it's insulting by state, the Labor opposition in the state saying they don't want to support it. I suspect Chris Minns would know nothing about the project.
In town, businesses are in disbelief.
They're really frustrated. Yeah, I'm not going to say that, I'm fine, I'm fine with it all.
Tearing up their livelihood.
And hopefully we'll get it back up and going. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when.
Across the Central West, not a town or community unaffected by this disaster.
And I think everyone accepts in the floodplain that you're going to get floods, and it's just how big and how damaging they are.
This one will go down in the history books. Annie Puller, 7 News.
After a 9-day tour of Southeast Asia representing Australia at 3 major international summits, Anthony Albanese is tonight on his way home. The Prime Minister says he leaves full of optimism for renewed international cooperation as he turns his focus back to domestic politics and a looming showdown in the Senate.
The streets of Bangkok erupt in violent clashes. Anti-government protesters no match for riot police. One man making a naked appeal for peace. It doesn't work. A monk has more success. A stark contrast to the choreographed diplomacy of APEC, Anthony Albanese among leaders welcomed by the Thai king. Today, confirming Australia's support for Taiwan's bid to become part of the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership despite Beijing's protests.
Our position has not changed.
Not an issue that was raised in his ice-breaking meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Tuesday. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has gone further after her own meeting with the Chinese President overnight, announcing she will lead a New Zealand trade delegation to Beijing next year.
That was received well, and the suggestion was made that we begin looking for dates in order to conduct that mission.
Anthony Albanese, more cautious.
What we've had this week is first steps, and I'm not getting ahead of myself.
As Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine drives APEC leaders to echo last week's G20 declaration, most leaders voicing their condemnation, but not all, including China.
In today's globalised world, as I said, the challenges can't be dealt with just by nation states acting alone. We need to have cooperation.
After a successful 9-day summit season, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese now heads back to Australia to try to get his government's signature industrial relations bill through a reluctant Senate. Despite all the allure of the world stage, for Australian Prime Ministers, domestic politics is still the main game. In Bangkok, Mark Riley, 7 News.
Donald Trump's third presidential campaign is off to a rocky start. A fresh investigation has been launched into his handling of classified documents linked to the attack on the US Capitol.
He's been quick to respond, labelling the probe a witch hunt and Joe Biden a political hack.
On the campaign and on the back foot.
It's just a witch hunt for no reason. I've proven to be one of the most honest and innocent people ever in our country. Joe Biden is a corrupt and incompetent political hack. This is a rigged deal. I've done nothing wrong.
Donald Trump launching a ferocious defence after he was sensationally made the subject of a second special counsel investigation.
It is in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
That man, Jack Smith, a Hague war crimes prosecutor, he's brought down gangs and corrupt police and politicians. He'll now oversee a criminal investigation into the former president's involvement in the January 6 riots and his handling of classified documents found at his Florida mansion.
Appointing a special counsel at this time is the right thing to do. The extraordinary circumstances presented here demand it.
Those extraordinary circumstances, Donald Trump's decision to again run for the White House, it prompted this probe, an investigation the former president says he won't cooperate with.
And you'd really say enough is enough.
Special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of the 2016 Trump campaign's ties to Russia spectacularly dominated the first half of his presidency. He blamed Democrats for that inquiry, and he's doing the same now.
No reaction. Again, this is going to be up to the Attorney General.
We are innocent.
In the United States, David Woiwod, 7 News.
Big changes are predicted for the national real estate market. While Sydney house and unit prices are expected to double in the next 8 years, experts are predicting Sydney will lose its crown for having the country's most expensive homes.
Sisters securing the biggest purchase of their lives, and the winning bid came down to virtually spare change.
$500? I beg your pardon? I'll take $500. Yep, $500.
The underbidder bowing out of the 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in Maryland's West.
At $1,202,500. Third and final call to you. Done. Finished. So $1,202,500.
Shara and Crystal Tran finally picking up their new home.
Well, we were like, oh, you know, it's about time to give up now.
I'm not surprised by the result. Given house on land this close to a major CBD like Parramatta, premium properties in this marketplace are still getting premium prices.
And if people think getting a piece of Sydney property today is a challenge, the word is in 8 years' time, getting your foot in the door is going to be that much harder. In fact, twice as expensive. According to new projections, Sydney house prices will double to $2.4 million by 2030. The average Sydney unit will cost $1 million. It also means Sydney will lose its real estate crown, second behind the Gold Coast for most expensive homes, third behind Melbourne and Geelong for most expensive units.
Sounds a bit ridiculous, like it's already expensive as it is.
Evan Batten, 7 News.
He's been attacked on the job and endured the COVID downturn. Now a Sydney restaurant owner has been dealt another blow with a thief breaking in. Police are now on the hunt for the robber. His actions all captured on camera.
3 a.m. yesterday, and a thief slides under the fence of a Seven Hills restaurant, sneaking straight up to a door and getting to work. Spending 12 minutes breaking in, then slipping quietly inside, wiping down fingerprints as he went before clumsily grabbing an apron, realising his face was on show. Within seconds, he'd pried open the cash register and stolen the day's takings.
He knew this premises. He just got in, he knew where to get in, and he knew where to get out.
It's another setback for the owners of Chaska Indian Restaurant. Weeks after opening last year, Navjeet Mahajan was badly beaten, chasing down another thief.
I try to forget it. Always the bad memories come back.
People in their day-to-day life have a right to go about their business without fear of being assaulted or robbed.
The robbery is just the latest blow for this small business who, like so many, are dealing with the costs of everything going up, leaving owners here to wonder how much more they can take.
It's kind of another, nail in the coffin. I don't want to use that word, but unfortunately that is.
Police are confident this video and forensic evidence will lead them to catch the thief. His actions hard for this chef to swallow.
Unfortunately, that's what the life package is. You get some sweet and you get some sour, sometimes bitter too.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
48 hours from the start of the World Cup, organisers have made an embarrassing U-turn, banning the sale of beer at stadiums. It's the latest controversy to plague an already fraught tournament, the first to be held in a Middle Eastern country.
2 days before a tournament 12 years in the planning, a culture clash shifting the goalposts. Football's governing body, FIFA, banning alcohol from being sold in all World Cup stadiums, caving to pressure from the Qatari royal family, the rulers of the deeply conservative host country. Qatar had initially agreed to allow the sale of Budweiser, its sponsorship deal with FIFA worth more than $110 million. The beer giant making a joke, tweeting, "Well, this is awkward," before later deleting it. Many of the 1 million fans travelling to Doha bemused by the last-minute booze ban.
Considering it's like 2 days before, I think everyone's going to be a bit like, oh.
So for us, we are here for the soccer and not in order to get wasted.
But so far the sport's taken a back seat. Qatar scrutinised over its human rights abuses and exploitation of migrant workers who have died building World Cup infrastructure. For the hosts and FIFA, the football can't start soon enough. Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
It was the largest loss of life in Australian naval history. Our warship, HMAS Sydney, locked in battle with a disguised German raider off the coast of WA, sinking into the sea and leaving behind no survivors. Now, with the help of 3D technology, researchers have reconstructed the wreckage sites, giving us our deepest insight yet into the World War II tragedy.
500,000 images, 300 hours of high-def video. Our largest naval tragedy recreated, the wrecks more accessible than ever before.
It's a very significant event in Australian history and important that we keep that story alive.
81 years ago today, the HMAS Sydney sank. For decades, mystery and controversy surrounded what happened. In 2008, the wreck was found off WA's coast, along with the German raider HSK Cormoran. Evidence shows the German ship was disguised as a trading vessel. Once Sydney was too close for her armaments to be effective, Cormoran opened fire. Both ships sank. 318 Germans were captured, but all 645 Australians died. In 2015, Curtin University and the WA Museum teamed up for a trip to the wreck sites. The vision and images they captured have been run through a supercomputer, creating this model. It's 2D, it's 3D, it can be used in virtual reality. The wrecks of the Sydney and Cormoran are 200 kilometres offshore at a depth of 2,500 metres. Not exactly an easy dive. It makes modelling like this as important as ever, a reminder of the horrors of war for generations to come. Only portions of the ships have been recreated so far. The plan is to eventually have them available at museums in Perth and Sydney. Rory Campbell, 7 News.
Sydney's Samoan community is gathering for the biggest night of their lives, a Rugby League World Cup final against the Kangaroos. Reporter Michelle Bishop is in Manchester with the Australian side. Michelle, this one's testing some loyalties.
Good evening, Ange. It certainly is. With the Australians are red-hot favourites to win the World Cup final your time tomorrow in the early hours. But of course, right around the world, we're seeing the Samoans as the sentimental favourites. Even here locally, they don't want to see Australia win. Now, yesterday at the Aussie team training, we saw a group of Australian tourists watch them train, mingle with the players, among them former Kangaroos Steve Blocker-Roach and Paul Sirenen. But how about these wonderful scenes from the Samoan capital, Apia, a short time ago, a street parade to honour their very first World Cup final in any kind of sport. This is history-making stuff. And I can tell you firsthand, I'm seeing what it's done to the players and what it means to them, their families and, of course, their homeland. Now, in Sydney, Samoa will gather at Wayland Reserve out there in Sydney's west, the Stardust Hotel in Cabramatta. They'll celebrate with a convoy at Liverpool tomorrow afternoon, win, lose or draw. And this is going to be a special one. This has seen a reboot of the international scene in terms of rugby league. And I'll have more in sport later on with the Jillaroos and the Silver Ferns, more on each side. Catch you later, Ange.
OK, thank you, Michelle.
Well, Amber's here now with the latest on Sydney's weather. Amber, good evening to you. Great day, plenty of sunshine, but wind had a bit of bite.
Good evening, Michael. Yes, those fresh, at times gusty winds meant while temperatures hovered in the early 20s today, it often felt at least 3 or 4 degrees cooler. It didn't stop around 160 cyclists making the journey from North Bondi to Berry on the state's south coast today to raise funds for dementia research. You can see them there on the Sea Cliff Bridge. Winds gusting at more than 50 kilometres an hour at Stanwell Park at times today. And winds are only strengthening ahead of a trough and cold front currently tracking towards the the coast. Multiple severe weather warnings are currently in place. The lower western, upper western and central districts are bracing for storms tonight, with damaging winds in excess of 90 kilometres per hour also expected over the ranges and alpine areas. We'll have more details on what this means for Sydney tomorrow coming up later in the bulletin. Andrew Michael.
OK, Amber, thank you for that. A plane bursts into flames with more than 100 passengers on board. Next, the runway obstacle that caused a deadly smash in Peru.
An alleged drunk driver arrested after a late-night crash in Sydney's inner west.
She promised to revolutionise blood testing, but it was all a lie. The eye-watering jail term handed to Elizabeth Holmes.
Old Parliament House restored and ready for visitors. We have your exclusive tour.
And later, the guilt-free loan helping home buyers save thousands. Thanks for your company tonight. An alleged drunk driver has been arrested after he was involved in a two-car collision in Sydney's inner west. It happened on Railway Terrace in Lewisham just after midnight. Police say the 44-year-old man returned a positive roadside test and was taken to Newtown Police Station. No one was injured there.
2 people have been killed and more than a dozen injured after a plane collided with a fire truck at an airport in Peru.
Now investigations are underway with reports an emergency drill may have caused the disaster.
At Peru's busiest airport, an emergency response about to trigger disaster. That lead fire truck racing onto a runway just as a passenger jet is taking off. The collision tearing off the right engine of the LATAM Airlines Airbus travelling around 250 kilometres an hour sent careering down the runway for the 108 passengers and crew. Terrifying seconds, out of control, flames and smoke filling their windows.
Dios mío.
Before finally coming to a stop, firefighters now speeding towards the burning plane. Passengers quickly evacuating. Everyone on board survived. 20 people were injured, 2 seriously. These passengers posting when life gives you a second chance. But in the truck, 2 firefighters were killed, a third is fighting for life. Peru's president giving his condolences. The airport shut down with an investigation underway into why it happened, with reports the fire crews had been doing an emergency drill before the crash. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
Forbes magazine once dubbed her the world's youngest self-made billionaire, but today she was sentenced to more than 11 years jail for fraud. As the founder of the failed blood testing startup Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes promised reliable tests for a range of illnesses using just a few drops of blood. But those tests were found to be falsified. She told the court through tears, "I regret my failings with every cell in my body."
Climate change protesters have struck again, this time targeting a sports car painted by artist Andy Warhol. The group poured flour over the vehicle, which is on display at a gallery in Milan, then glued themselves to the window before officials stepped in and dragged them away. It's one of several demonstrations planned to coincide with climate talks in Egypt. The list of Twitter quitters continues to grow. More resignations for the social media giant. Are its days numbered?
Lightning fast on the field, not so confident in the water. The young footballers learning how to stay afloat.
Sausage McMuffin, smiles and a bit of star power. Macca's pulls out all the stops on McHappy Day.
And in sport, the Kangaroos turn tourist. A quick photo op before taking a shot at history at the Rugby League World Cup.
A mass exodus of staff has plunged Twitter into further chaos, with predictions the social media giant's days are numbered.
But the company's new billionaire owner appears unfazed, carrying on with his mission to overhaul the site.
Twitter's San Francisco nest trolled. In real life, the target of these projections, the social media giant's new brash billionaire owner, Elon Musk, weathering a tsunami of staff resignations after demanding his employees commit to working extremely hardcore or leave.
He's shifting now the culture of a company he didn't start.
1,200 key engineers and developers now gone. The doors to offices locked, prompting global speculation. The platform Musk paid $65 billion for is teetering on the edge. RIP Twitter trending worldwide.
It's kind of hardcore make your decision if you're going to stay or go. Not something that Twitter people are accustomed to.
Tweeting through the mayhem, though, Musk boasting another all-time high in Twitter usage was hit overnight, posting memes, embracing the chaos, before urgently pleading in another email for anyone who actually writes software to report to the 10th floor at 2 p.m. today.
It just seems that with current staff levels, it cannot, and that's just flat out cannot be saved.
Sentiment Musk doesn't appear to share, still pushing his vision for a revamped platform, new content moderation and account verification, things he can't do with workers flying the coop. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
Thousands of Deliveroo customers left with unused vouchers after the company shut its doors have been given a reprieve. Menulog has promised to honour gift cards, account credits and valid promotional vouchers. The company has also offered to employ Deliveroo's 15,000 drivers.
As summer approaches, now's the time to start thinking about being beach smart. The harsh reality is that young men are more likely to drown. To combat this, a surf club on Sydney's northern beaches is training some young Western Sydney soccer players how to be safe in the water.
Showing off their soccer skills on the sand. These boys from Blacktown City are some of the nation's best. 5 former players are preparing for the FIFA World Cup.
Very exciting to, have some Socceroos come from this amazing club.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're good at all sports.
A lot of these boys have never been to the beach, so it's on the other side of Sydney.
Taking the plunge this weekend and taken out of their comfort zone. Learning to paddle on a surf craft.
Ready? Go!
As well as beach sprints and races.
Round the cone, boys, no cheating! Go, 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 go!
Not just surf skills, but life skills too.
And I had a slip, slop, slap, put on some sunscreen, hydrate and drink.
Sitting down for some important advice.
What's the safest place to swim on the beach? Between the flags.
Also shown how to spot potentially deadly rips.
You can see the foam on the water, where the currents are going. There's definitely sandbars, there'll be darker patches, there'll be brown patches where the sand's moving a lot quicker.
For parents and coaches, teaching these teenage boys beach safety is critical. In just a few years, they'll be in the highest risk age group. With 140 drownings around the nation last year, more than 90% were male.
The risk assessment's a little bit down. I look at it and go, yeah, I think I can handle that. Doesn't matter, how good you are, the surf can put you in your place.
The training day organised by online network Next Door to create stronger and safer communities.
I learned to keep myself off water and stay away from the river.
Lessons sinking in that will keep our youngest afloat. Josh Martin, 7 News.
It was a star-studded McHappy Day in Sydney's Inner West, where a Hollywood actress made a surprise appearance. Eva Mendes met with families and fans at McDonald's Haberfield before offering to flip burgers to help with fundraising efforts. McHappy Day raises money to support families with children in hospital.
Still to come, GP wait times blow out how long you could be waiting for urgent care.
It was badly damaged when protesters set it on fire. What Old Parliament House looks like 1 year on.
Soon in sport, the new faces of the Socceroos ready to shock the world.
And another windy day is on the way for Sydney tomorrow. All the details in your full forecast soon.
More Australians are waiting longer to see a GP for urgent medical care. Last year, 40% of patients had to wait more than 24 hours for an appointment. That's according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. That's up 6% on the previous 12 months. It is worse in regional areas, with 50% waiting longer for urgent appointments.
It's almost a year since Canberra's Old Parliament House was attacked by protesters and set on fire. The damage was extensive. But after a multi-million-dollar restoration, the historic building has been given a new lease on life. And tonight, we can take you inside for an exclusive first look.
One of Australia's most treasured heritage sites under siege. Old Parliament House torched by violent protesters, causing damage on an enormous scale.
Seeing that footage of the flames at the front of the building, the expectation was
oh, it is just the doors, but the extent was much more significant.
The fire destroying the portico as it burst through the front doors and up King's Hall. Water used to extinguish the blaze inundated the main entry, and all 3 stories of the interior were stained black from soot.
Just the sheer scale of it was, I guess, quite disheartening.
But the restoration effort extraordinary. Birdcage scaffolding had to be erected to remove ash from the high ceilings.
Some of the cleaning tasks and painting tasks were incredibly involved.
The portico entirely rebuilt from just a steel frame. Timber front doors so scorched repair workers weren't sure they could be saved, undergoing a delicate process to stabilise the core of each panel.
The Conservatives were able to save 65% of the door.
1927 parquetry flooring in the foyer waterlogged and torn up. Fresh concrete put down, new-aged jarrah timber laid above, replicating the original design.
It was a scale that meant we had to have the building closed for 4 months.
And a scar that's finally healed. Old Parliament House is preparing for its grand reopening next weekend after a $5 million makeover.
From the front steps right through to the centre of the museum, I think you'll see a fantastic result.
Jeremy Frost, 7 News.
Between soaring interest rates and power prices, homeowners can't seem to catch a break. But one man's managed to avoid all that. He hasn't paid a power bill in 4 years. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News.
But first, Matt is here with Sport Mac. Good evening to you. Steve Smith, brilliant today with the bat.
Yeah, he was on fire, guys. That's right. Australia's aiming to go 2-up in their one-day series with England at the SCG tonight. Smith, the best of the Aussies, but was absolutely filthy with himself. Details next. Plus, Mal Meninga's legacy that's fueling the Kangaroos ahead of the World Cup final, and deja vu for Daniel Ricciardo returning to the Formula One team that made him a star. Welcome back. Steve Smith's renewed run of form continued today at the SCG against England. Not happy, dismissed just short of a century. Australia totalled 8 for 280. Smith top scoring with 94. 2 wickets in Mitchell Starc's first over rattled England's run chase.
In front of the old stands, a new captain, Josh Hazlewood, won his first toss, replacing a rested Pat Cummins.
I think he was happy to have a rest, actually, with the amount of cricket coming up. Just a nice little, you're captain next game.
Moeen Ali doing likewise for England's Joss Buttler. The stand-in skipper swept aside an annoyed Dave Warner for 16. Chris Wokes hurried up Travis Head on 19. 2 for 43. Cue Marnus Labuschagne.
Gee, that's an aggressive shot from Marnus. 1 then 6.
On track to top his unbeaten 80 in Adelaide, Steve Smith.
Lofted by Smith. That's an imperious stroke from Stephen Smith.
Abdul Rashid fooled Labuschagne into a false stroke on 58. Alex Carey stumped for a golden duck as Smith's 13th one-day century beckoned.
And there is one right there. A step across and a flick.
His bid for triple figures halted on the boundary for 94.
Doesn't get all of it, but is it enough? No.
Rashid claiming a furious Smith for the 6th time in one-day internationals. Replacing arrested Cam Green, Mitch Marsh smashed a half-century from 59 balls.
Has he got enough? Yes, he has.
Ashton Agar clubbing a cameo 18. England's target, 281.
Sounded clean. He's got enough elevation to go up and over.
The crowd may need plenty more catching practice tonight. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
And Ash Gardner-inspired Sixers will play in the WBBL Grand Final. Gardner gave the Sixers bragging rights against the Thunder in last night's Sydney derby. Her power hitting produced 85 from just 48 balls.
Ground's not big enough to hold that one.
Gardner also got a wicket in the 18-run win. The Sixers guaranteed a grand final berth even if they lose their last 2 regular matches. Well, Kangaroos stars want Mal Meninga to stay as coach to the next World Cup, knowing they'll need to win tomorrow morning's final to make it happen. While there's a romance to Samoa's run to their first Cup final, the Aussies arrived at Manchester's Theatre of Dreams in a ruthless mood.
Old Trafford, one of sport's most hallowed grounds.
Oh, Theatre of Dreams, brother, Theatre of Dreams.
Turned rugby league's biggest stars into giddy tourists. The Kangaroos' final training run, all happy snaps, selfies and butterflies.
Oh, we're playing a World Cup final, so there's going to be nerves there regardless of who we're playing or what we're up against.
From Brian To'o's boombox to a run-through of the Civitao. The Samoans arrive loud and clear and revved up by The Rock.
Yeah, I know. I think I haven't heard from Uncle in a long time. But, it was pretty. I think it was pretty mad. Not just only for us boys, but I think everyone around the world.
This is the Theatre of Dreams. Every player that runs onto that pitch tomorrow night has already visualised what they want it to look like at full time. Some dreams can come true. The Kangaroos just have to ask what happened to their coach in 1990. Mal's lesson now, honour the green and gold legacy, but create your own.
Everyone's really embraced it and enjoyed the journey so far.
Win or lose, Samoa's already caused a seismic shift in League's world order.
It's been a mad experience and journey so far.
Travelling with the Australian Kangaroos in the UK, Michelle Bishop, 7 News.
Well, the Socceroos' Theatre of Dreams is Qatar. 3 teammates with the deepest bond are there to take on France, shock the world and prove there's a new golden generation on the rise.
As more than 1 million fans begin cramming into Doha, beer or no beer, the Socceroos gather for a team photo as poster boys of a new era.
Maybe we're the next golden generation, so I think that's a big call, but for us, we have a motivation to try to shock the world.
I wouldn't say intimidation. I find it more exciting, to see what you can do against players of that calibre.
What's intimidating on a football pitch when you've grown up in a refugee camp?
I'm not afraid, really. I'm just trying to enjoy every moment.
Thomas Deng, Garang Kuol, Awa Mobile, cherished new faces of Australian football. Proud role models when most others just get to play.
If there was no questions, then sometimes you can't find out, or you can't tell a story.
I don't think it's anything to fear. For us, it drives us, it gives us motivation, to do better.
Just 18, Kuol can become our youngest at a World Cup.
It's just like a label, it doesn't really mean anything. I just got to perform on the field.
Our South Sudanese Socceroos inspiring hope well beyond their shot at world champions France in 4 days. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Racing's biggest day of the year in Wollongong, and it was party time at Kembla Grange for the very popular running of the $1 million Gong Handicap.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Tim Clark rode the winner, Riadini, for Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott in the 1600 metre track record time. At last report, the party was still going. Daniel Ricciardo's return to Red Bull as a reserve driver for next year has been confirmed. The Aussie was 9th fastest in practice for his final Grand Prix for McLaren, the season finale in Abu Dhabi. With the championship locked up, Max Verstappen was fastest in another day of Red Bull dominance. Sebastian Vettel was greeted with his first ever race suit and helmet at his retirement race. Australian sport has a new star and he's worth watching. This is Ethan McGuinness's final tumbling pass at the World Titles in Bulgaria overnight. Good enough for gold for the Penrith-born 21-year-old, the first Aussie to stand atop the podium as a world tumbling champion. It's Australia's second victory at the trampoline gymnastics titles. Karina Haggerty starred as her team grabbed gold in the double mini category and their first win in that event in 34 years. And you talk about jumping for joy after winning a gold. That's a jump. That's the good one, isn't it? Yeah. It was huge.
Geez, some great talent there for the years ahead.
Amazing acrobats, yeah. Yeah, really good.
Thank you, Sherbo.
Well, as interest rates and power prices soar, tonight 7 News can reveal a unique incentive set to slash the cost of both.
The Australian First Solar Home Loan is helping homeowners save thousands on mortgage repayments and energy bills.
Ben Cizauskas hasn't paid a power bill in 4 years since installing solar at his home.
It's fantastic. I get a credit and then in the other months it uses the credit on the power bill.
But as interest rates soar, the repayments on his investment property have gone up by $1,000 a month. Now he's looking for ways to cut costs.
Anything I can do to get that down is something I'm going to take advantage of.
He's one of the first to sign up for a new green home loan launched today. Loans.com.au offering a 0.6% discount on its variable rate for 5 years for customers who install household solar.
A customer who has an average home loan amount of, say, $450,000, over the 5-year term, they'd save $13,500 on their home loan.
And that covers the cost of the solar system. Even if you already have solar, you could be eligible for the loan.
When they apply, they've just got to supply their invoice to prove that they have installed a solar or they're about to undertake that work.
While Gateway Bank, Bank Australia and Regional Australia Bank are also offering discounted green home loans. It pays to do your homework before making the switch.
Generally, the lower the interest rate, the harder it is to qualify for. Some green home loans may require you to have extra sustainable features such as double glazing, home insulation.
For Ben, it's a zero-sum game.
In many ways, it's a win-win. I get the solar system for free and I get free power.
Saving dollars makes sense. Samantha Heathwood, 7 News.
Well, Amber's back with the latest weather. Amber, it is warming up tomorrow.
Yes, forecast maximums are looking several degrees warmer tomorrow before a cool change arrives. Your detailed outlook for the week ahead is next.
On Weekend Sunrise, the perfect time to buy. Why first home buyers should act now to get on the property ladder. And the first fruit of the season, the punters paying big bucks for a kilo of cherries. Plus, breakfast with the stars. Richard E. Grant is down under and joins us in studio. Sunday, 7 a.m.
Some breaking news now. 3 people have walked away from this helicopter crash on the Central Coast. The R44 took out power lines as it came down at Foresters Beach on the Central Coast Highway. Onlookers say it came in low and started spinning out of control before losing altitude.
Well, now here's Amber with Sydney's weather.
Thank you, Michael. Well, we are expecting plenty of sunshine to close out the weekend with above average temperatures on the way. It reached a top of 23 degrees in the city today. Right now it is 21, although in that fresh breeze it feels like 17. Now you can see this trough and cold front sweeping across the state, whipping up those strong gusty winds. Warnings for severe thunderstorms remain in place tonight across parts of western New South Wales as well as the Riverina. Behind this system, a new ridge of high pressure is expected to extend from the west tomorrow and should linger until the end of the week, bringing mostly settled conditions, although cooler temperatures are expected for a couple of days. Until then, though, showers are forecast across much of the country southeast tomorrow. A possible storm on the way for Brisbane, a light shower or two for Canberra. Showers and possible storms also expected in Melbourne. A wet and windy day forecast for Adelaide, with partly cloudy skies and tops of 22 expected in Perth. Across the state tomorrow, now you can see a few light showers across parts of the Riverina as well as the southern and central tablelands. Falls should only be relatively light, though we aren't expecting more than a few mils in the gauge. Temperatures should hover in the late 20s into the early 30s across northern New South Wales and along parts of the coast. Elsewhere, though, behind that front, cooler conditions with just 16 degrees, the top at Orange tomorrow. For Sydney, though, it will nudge 30 in some parts. You can see 28 degrees in Parramatta, Blacktown, 29 tomorrow in Penrith. Westerly winds of up to 45 kilometres per hour are forecast during the mid-morning. Northerly winds will start the day, though, expected to reach up to 30 knots offshore early in the day before turning westerly. Strong wind warnings are in place tomorrow for much of the coast, stretching from the waters off Byron all the way down to Eden. So in the city, 29 degrees is the forecast top tomorrow, a warm 19 overnight. That is a few degrees above average for this time of year. Plenty of sunshine. The start of the working week looks set to bring cooler temperatures before it starts warming up again, reaching the 30s again in the west by later next week. It should, though, remain mostly sunny and dry throughout the week. So, Michael and Ange, a warm and windy end to the weekend tomorrow.
OK, thanks so much, Amber. That is 7 News for this Saturday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
Sunrise starts from 7 tomorrow from all the 7 News team, though. For now, hope you have a great night.
Good night.